Welcome to the Spread, Nesson's do-it-all podcast with a hint of sports betting or an influence of sports betting. I'm Nesson.com's Mike Cole, joined once again, and as always by Ricky Doyle. Ricky, welcome back for week 2 of this new iteration of the Spread.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mike. It's always a pleasure. I'm glad we're figuring this out as we go. But I think I think you hit the nail on the head. We're going to touch on a little bit of everything and have a little betting slant to it, and we'll see what happens. We'll let it rip.
Yeah, so, I mean, this week will be probably the last people of all to weigh in on the Tom Brady roast that took place, what feels like 2 weeks ago at this point. We'll get into a little bit of we'll talk some local sports scene, Celtics and Bruins, kind of as that relates to the NHL and the NBA. And then you know, we're going to do this thing. We're doing this like 52 weeks a year now, right? It extends beyond the football season, so we're going to have to get a little creative with what we want to talk about. We try not to do bits or segments that are too regimented, but we kind of came up with this. I already forget what we're calling it. I kind of made it up on the fly here.
Do we even have a name for it?
You can bet on it.
This is news to me.
Bet on it. You can bet on it.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get into the Westminster Dog Show a little bit later. You can bet on the Westminster Dog Show, at least in various nations, principalities, whatever you want to.
I have a feeling that animals are going to play a huge part in our podcasting future.
Yeah, that does remind me. I can't tell if this is good mojo or bad mojo. Right before we came on here, I was scrolling through Twitter and or X. Ever since Mr. Musk kind of changed it over, my For You tab has been a complete dumpster fire for the most part.
I'm nervous to open mine because I watched one guy get his ass kicked one time, and now like anytime I open X, it's like fights and school hallways.
I can't go anywhere without seeing somebody get absolutely decked.
Yeah, like so I get really nervous. I'm like, somebody's gonna walk by and see me watching somebody get their ass kicked in a grocery store, and next thing you know, I'm getting pulled in HR.
Yeah, and that thing is
I swear to God, it's just my algorithm.
The algorithm is very sensitive too. You watch one thing, and all of a sudden it looks like you are into the weirdest stuff. So speaking of that, as we were about to come on, speaking of animals, things like that, I saw a video of a guy giving a monkey CPR. So
that's pretty cool.
It was like, this thing looks fake, and the guy's like giving him the chest compressions, and I guess he brought the monkey back to life. So
that's a feel-good story.
Yeah, 100%. I wonder. I don't know where it was. Perhaps it is in a country where you can bet on the Westminster Dog Show.
Send me that. I'd like to get some of that worked into my algorithm.
I'll look into that. Yeah, I'm just.
That's the other thing is like you can kind of sabotage people now with the way that tab works.
Too, yeah.
Like if I want to get you in some hot water, I can just start sending you stuff that will mess with whatever you have going on over there.
Yep.
Especially if I know if somebody important is going to walk by.
That is.
We sit in close proximity.
Scene, yeah. So monkeys getting resuscitated is what we're starting today.
Monkeys riding dogs, herding goats.
That is. I made my.
That's why you shaped the man you are today.
That's why I can now bet on the Westminster Dog Show. The money I have is from building my career block by block from writing about minor league promotions back in 2011 or 2010.
That's a deep cut for you.
That is. Yeah. No one has any idea what we're talking about. So, speaking of animals, I came very close to hitting my Kentucky Derby pick last week. Did you watch the Kentucky Derby?
I did, yeah.
I did not watch it.
That was a very good race.
I tell you what, the Kentucky Derby is one of those events where if you miss it, you missed it. It's over. Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, it's 7:14. I missed Kentucky Derby.
I was cutting it close, too, because I was driving to where I was going to watch it, and I was running a little behind. And it's one of those things, like, it's not like you can show up in the, midway through the first quarter.
Well, I mean, you could, but you better find a seat real fast.
Yeah, so things are getting dicey. It's a lot of yelling at red lights and yellow lights.
Yeah, tough break for Forever Young, and a photo finish for the ages. Mystic Dan, I believe, was the winner.
Yep.
Sure.
I had him.
Did you?
Yeah, I ultimately landed on Mystic Dan somehow. And just a touch on Mystic Dan.
You're a liar. You're a liar.
I got receipts.
Also, looking back on last week, the reviews are in. I saw at least one comment telling us not to quit our day jobs. Little does that person know this is only a very small part of our day job.
Yeah.
So it is still our day job, though. So it's kind of a, joke's on you there, pal. Somebody also was a little irritated at the fact that I thought Tom Brady would be a bad head coach. So that's something we might need to, or not even head coach.
I think we're in lockstep on that.
Position
so
coach, yeah.
I'll dive on that grenade.
I said it with my chest, unfortunately or fortunately. So, I'm glad that you're there with me. So, we'll get into Brady in a couple seconds to go over the roast. Before we do, make sure you check out the Nesson Vodcast Network. Right now, the best way to find that is go to youtube.com/Nesson. So just search for Nesson Vodcast in Google. A smattering of wonderful offerings across the sports world from the Nesson Vodcast folks. I know our friends Travis and George have really hit the Tom Brady roast pretty hard, so we're going to kind of pick up the pieces. I guess that's where we'll start here.
Yeah, we're just kind of like the odds and ends.
Yeah, and
everybody's kind of touched on it, and it's just like, well, whatever's left, we'll pick.
We were kind of going over it, and I guess my challenge to you was to come up with a take or an opinion on this entire thing that has not been said, written, communicated yet. Can you do it? Where do you start on Tom Brady getting roasted on Netflix?
Well, I mean, I guess to tie everything together, because I've seen a lot of people criticizing or questioning the fact of it being live just because it was, 3.5 hours long. Like, it was long.
It's too long, yeah.
And there were certain parts of it that really dragged on. But, like, that being said, I think that's kind of what made it so special or unique. Like, the fact that everybody was watching it at the same time. Like, it was just kind of one of those events that just completely took over a moment in time. Like, you get that every now and then. Like, I was talking to you earlier about this, like Will Smith smacking Chris Rock, or like, I don't know, Ellen DeGeneres' selfie, or like Kanye West storming the stage, like things like that just happen. There's just those things, and everybody's engulfed in it, and that's kind of what Sunday felt like, which I wasn't really anticipating going into it. Like, I admittedly on Sunday night, I was just kind of like screwing around, scrolling on my TV, and I almost had forgotten about it.
Yeah.
I feel like the promotion of it was what it was, and then once you locked in and you realize everybody else was watching, you're like, oh, okay, we're all doing this. That's cool.
It was weird because like it was on Netflix. It had to be on Netflix for what it ultimately was.
Oh yeah,
and it's Netflix just doesn't feel like it's promoted as heavily as like, you know, there's no the 60 Minutes lead it on CBS or whatever on Sunday afternoons. To that original point that you made, I agree, and I think I'm hearkened by that, or like I hope we can continue to do, whether it's a roast or more things like this, that idea of everybody kind of watching the same thing at the same time is almost foreign at this point, with how many opportunities you have for various streaming platforms, or everything's on demand. Like, nobody watches ER at this, you know what I mean, at the same time.
You're not getting the MASH finale.
Correct. Which, again, like it kind of speaks to the whole idea, or why live sports are still relatively valuable in the grand media ecosystem. Same thing for the award shows and things like that. Dude, those are all the kind of things that you mentioned. It's just these live events that you have to watch in the moment, or you're going to miss out on it. And, you know, that's... FOMO still exists, so I guess that's something to consider here. For me, like the ultimate, and again, this is probably a recycled take, I guess, at this point, or it's something that somebody's already said, is I'm just kind of, I think I'm good now. Like we can be done with this, right? With the Patriots and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, right? One of them's retired. The other guy is probably not going to get another job. The third guy is 115 years old. We've done the Apple series. They drafted the new core. Like, we've done the multiple documentary series.
Yep.
I guess the last thing at this point is the Brady retirement ceremony. And at this point, why would you want tickets to that when you just basically saw a better version of that this weekend? What a snooze
fest that's going to be.
So I think the Patriots can go away for a while. At least the Patriots dynasty or whatever. Like, can we put it all to rest? I feel like there are some people probably stretching a little too hard or bending over backwards to call this some sort of needed healing. I think there's still some very, very icy tension, most notably between Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. It may never go anywhere because Belichick holds a grudge like no other, and Kraft is just old and probably will die before fully bringing this whole thing together and reconciling with
say
Belichick.
That stuff again.
Yeah.
Be careful how you talk about Robert Kraft.
And I thought it was telling when Belichick and Kraft were up there, and like that was just uncomfortable, awkward, and not in the way that made this thing entertaining. It was just one guy really. It was just the same exact. It was the press conference all over again, just in a different setting, where it was. Kraft so badly wants to hug the guy and have the record set straight that he believes he's the greatest coach of all time, and this, and everything's rosy. Like he didn't just fire the guy's ass into the sun. So that's not that is still raw. I feel like so maybe that's going to take some time to heal. Do that on your own time though, because I've had enough of this whole Patriots thing. It feels like it's all happened very recently. I was here for the last 25 years. I saw it happen, covered it. Been close to it for the last 10, 15 years, and now it's just being regurgitated over and over. We need to take a break. See me again in 10 years. Maybe we'll do it again, and it'll feel a little fresher. But until my barber, who I need to see, by the way, told me he's not watching any of this stuff until they win another Super Bowl. He's like, I don't care if I'm 75 years old. I'm not watching the Dynasty. I'm not watching Tom versus Time. I got to check in with him on the roast. Yeah. But I was like, that's an interesting take. I don't know. I mean, you're gonna need something to do in your later years, but because I don't think they win a Super Bowl anytime soon. So that's kind of where I am. I think we're good here. Like I think we've exercised this enough. Like I think we should be. The people who need to make up either have or just are never going to. There's not a whole lot else to do.
No, I agree with you. I think we should be done with this. Let's
we're not
go
going
on with
to
our
be,
lives.
Though. I guarantee
but
you.
I don't think we are. And I think it's because of that last point. I think that the fact there is seemingly still that little bit of something between Belichick and Kraft. Like, I watched that roast, and I'm like, Belichick's definitely coaching next year.
If he gets a job, yeah.
He is more apt to come out of retirement now, not retirement, whatever it is, his little hiatus, the 1 year hiatus because he couldn't land a job. Like, you got to think that all those jokes about him not being able to land a job, that he probably has a hair across his ass today. And the first opportunity that he gets, whether it's Dallas, Philadelphia, Buffalo, like there's a lot of options that could be on the table next year depending on how this season goes. That I'm watching that, I'm like, oh yeah, he's coming back, and he's coming back with a chip on his shoulder.
Which is why I think a lot of this. That's the other thing too. Like I know I said I want to be done with it, and I think we should be done with it. We're not going to because Belichick's not going anywhere.
Right.
To that point, but also in the short term, he's doing the media thing, and he's going to be everywhere. And I guess I tend to agree with you. I agree with the fact that I think he wants to coach again. I don't know if he will. I don't know if he's going to get a job. But I do think you tie all of what's going on right now with the McAfee stuff and the college game day and the draft night and now this and whatever else he's going to do that isn't coaching is a way for him to sit there and show you how magnanimous he is or how personable he is. And I even saw before we came on here, I know Scott Van Pelt was talking about it on his podcast, and he did this thing, and he's not alone, where it's, we tell you guys, trust us. This guy behind the scenes is far more personable. And so now I think he's trying to put that out there to kind of erase some of the questions that people or teams might have about him. And so I think this is all maybe he wants to do it. Maybe it's great money. I also think it's somewhat contrived way of I guess fixing his image. Is that the way you want to put it? Trying to appeal or trying to present himself as somebody who's a little more approachable than maybe he had been seen throughout his Patriots run.
Which I think is smart. Like, I think him
sitting out
I don't know
if it's going to work or not, because I think at the end of the day, he is what he is. But
but I mean, I think him sitting out a year and being able to maybe pick his spot next year is, in the long run, probably better off than him going to Atlanta, which seemed like it was really the only option. Like there weren't many options for him this offseason. And I think that you're going to see some teams that, for one reason or another, they underachieved this year, and they're going to be sitting there next year with a coaching vacancy and be like, well, we have that guy. We have that break glass in case of emergency option over there who has won all these Super Bowl titles, and, things obviously ended on a sour note in New England, but he's still Bill Belichick, and I'll test my luck with that. So I see that happening, but it is interesting you bring up the sort of the media tour and almost reinventing himself a little bit, and whether any of that carries over into his next stop or if he just immediately goes back.
I think
we saw it with Brady. I think that Brady leaving New England in his tenure in Tampa Bay was the seismic shift for this now public-facing image change that he is going through? Like, I don't think it would be to that extent, but is it like, oh, rebranded Bill Belichick?
Maybe, and we've seen it before with other coaches even, where when Mike McCarthy got fired in Green Bay, it became pretty clear that some elements of what he used to do well had passed him by. And I remember there was this whole thing, it was like maybe a Sports Illustrated profile where somebody went and saw him in Pittsburgh and was like, he's grinding away. He's got tape everywhere. He's talking to the analytics people. Like,
was talking to the nerds.
Yeah, right. Like he was.
He's not stuffing them in lockers anymore.
Repackaged himself as this. He's learned from his mistakes in the past. And now he's a little bit. He's added a little bit to his coaching toolbox. And he came back and he's like punting on 4th and 2 again. So I think Belichick probably ends up in the same thing where. There's going to be a story next May where he takes the Dallas Cowboys to paintball, and it's like, look, this guy's learned. And then by like October, it's like this guy's grumbling into a microphone.
Yeah, you lose 2 or 3 in a row, and all of a sudden you're falling back into old habits and whatnot.
So, and in the meantime, he's going to do broadcasting. I thought that was another interesting look at what he is as a person with the microphone and camera in front of him when he's not trying to protect state secrets for his football team. Brady, we know, is a guy who loves having his face in front of cameras and talking. Both of those guys look destined to go into some sort of broadcasting. I think that's one of the bigger takeaways too, is like these guys are using this type of stuff as a catapult or whatever for their next. Oh, you just a light come on, I think. Their next stop. Who are you going to be more interested in consuming from a media standpoint next year, Bill Belichick or Tom Brady? Because we're going to get a lot of both.
I find Bill Belichick to be like delightfully unrefined. All right, like I don't know how else to describe it. Like he's not perfect.
That's a good tagline for our podcast.
Like he's got his, he's not polished. I guess he's up there, but the knowledge of the game is obvious. You've seen it in spurts throughout. Even his tenure with the Patriots, that there is a bit of personality there once you yank it out of him, and we're seeing it more. It's kind of delightful. Like I think Brady is what he is. Like I don't think anything that Brady has done media-wise is really all that surprising since his retirement or whatever. But Belichick, it's like there's a mystery, there's an unknown element to it, but also, like I said, just him being sort of just fumbling. Like the draft thing with McAfee, I thought was like oddly fascinating. Like he was just kind of fumbling around a little bit, but also had a bit of humor mixed in. You're like, this guy's kind of a wild guy right now.
So this is a betting podcast, and we're trying. So like, if we're putting odds on an intangible thing here, I think Brady would be the clear favorite if whatever you
have
find
a more successful.
Better,
sure.
More
entertaining. I don't think that he's got a longer runway. I would imagine.
He's more personable too, like because my point is
he can play the media game.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I don't know if Belichick has the stomach for it.
I get what you're saying about Belichick, and like there were parts of like the draft thing, for example, that I found entertaining, and I think it's unfair because he'll probably get better as he goes and gets more comfortable with this stuff. I
don't think he wants to.
Then he's gonna stink.
Well, that's what I mean.
So I don't think he's gonna be good.
No, I don't think broadcasting is a long-term thing for him.
No,
like,
I'm just saying
it is that
it was a
1
short-term
year
question. I mean,
I think we're going to get like the 1 year window. He's going to be I'm going to enjoy it the 1 year. Then he's going to go back to coaching, and I don't know if he ever goes back to broadcasting.
No, probably not. I just think like from what we've seen so far, like the draft thing was like those guys were trying to screw around, and maybe it's not the best fit for him, where he's like nudging McAfee, like showing him something that's probably like notes about a third string tight end from UTEP, while like the magician is on the side being like, untape that thing that's taped to your torso. Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a great fit. I've also heard a lot of the stories I think he's going to tell, like the Randy Moss one with the trade. Like I've heard that story. So like,
sure.
I just think he's limited. So I'm not buying into it. I think I'm not really that excited for it.
I think his actual analysis is kind of interesting though, to see like.
But I think it's outdated. So I think you need to, and I don't think he's gonna get that push and pull on McAfee. I think they're just gonna be like, hell yeah.
That's
coach.
why I do think there's a shelf life to it. Like I think in a year it'd be like, okay, well this whole shtick is kind of over.
Yeah, sure.
But like right now it's like, even if it is outdated. It is like just okay. I want to see it through Bill Belichick's eyes, what he thinks of this crop of quarterbacks. He could be way off the reservation with his evaluation, but it's like, he's new to this. I'm kind of interested to hear what he has to say.
I think Brady's going to be potentially good. It's hard to say. But I do think
I thought he was pretty good in the roast.
He's starting to, at the end of especially at the end of his Patriots time, dude was just a robot or like a weird, just he'd almost become too famous, and he's even more famous now than he was. But I do think he's at least allowed himself to let his hair down a little bit and is a little more relatable in terms of like. And I think that was one of the big takeaways from the dynasty is it's like, oh, this guy, when he wants to be, is actually relatable. And now I do understand why guys rave about him as a teammate and just one of the guys despite being Tom Brady. If we see that guy in the Fox booth on Sundays, I'm in. Otherwise, I think that's going to be a tough watch too. So, yeah. Speaking of roasts, we're going to get into our recipes now. BetOnline.ag has odds for the next athlete to be given a roast. This isn't. I looked into like the parameters here, and I'm not really entirely sure what it means because like how formal does this roast need to be? Maybe it's a Netflix roast. Maybe it's I don't know. But the favorite right now at 4-1 is LeBron James, followed by Charles Barkley at 5-1, Shaq 5-1, The Rock 6-1, Travis Kelce 8-1, Strahan 8-1. Mahomes 9-1 and Peyton Manning 10-1, and then we get into a bunch more. If we had to do somebody tomorrow of that list or of the famous people, who are you looking for? Where's the value here?
Well, I mean, the LeBron being the favorite makes a ton of sense, right?
Yeah,
like
that would stink though.
So this is the thing: it's when you're figuring out a subject, there has to be material.
Yeah,
obviously. There also has to be like just the sheer name recognition.
Yeah.
Like you can't go from Tom Brady to, Danny Amendola, who was a subject, was really in Bill Belichick's crosshairs. Like it's got to be somebody with immense star power, which obviously he fits that. Like the options for potential roasters. Is that what you would call
roasters? Yeah.
So like there has to be people there that you can call upon to flesh out this event. So like LeBron, I mean, what? A lot of his former teammates, D Wade, Melo, Chris Paul, like guys like that.
Also super famous celebrities.
Oh, the Obamas, could be there. Jordan. I mean, if you really want to do the GOAT thing, like celebrities, like Justin Bieber, Will Smith, Dave Chappelle, like guys like that. Like there's a lot of options for LeBron James. So I think the timeline probably aligns like with his career, sort of winding down here. Son entering the NBA. Assuming he's still in LA, there's like the ease of execution. You can have it at the same venue if you want to.
I got a media company.
So LeBron makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, just looking through. I mean, we don't need to get too deep into this, but Jordan at 14-1 feels like value just because he's Jordan. I don't know if he'd want to do that. Who knows?
Yeah, it's hard for me to.
Do you any interest in Willie Mays at 100-1? I'm gonna have to speed that up and really get going on that. From the baseball vein, like a Barry Bonds 33-1 feels like a great eventual image. What's the word I'm looking for? Fixer.
Yeah, well, you could use it.
Revitalization of his image. So I don't know. Tiger Woods 12-1 is the guy I'd want to see. I feel like that's a perfect one. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
The two stood out to me as ones that I'd like to see. Tiger Woods at 12-1 and Alex Rodriguez at 33-1.
Yeah.
Again,
for the exact same reasons.
For really just the sheer amount of material that you could go off of there. It could get ugly for both of those guys.
100%. Rehabilitation was the word I was looking for.
Sure, there you go. What about your guy, Aaron Rodgers?
I saw that one too.
16-1.
He's way too thin-skinned for that.
You think so?
Wouldn't do it. Yeah. Or
I mean, the guy is roasted on various forms of media on a daily basis at this point. You might as well capitalize it.
Yeah, he doesn't like fight back in a way that's endearing whatsoever. It's
that's
more
true.
petty
I'm not
and
saying
childish.
it would be good.
No, I think it was. Well, that's the other thing. The next one's gonna stink. I'm pretty sure because I don't think it's. I think they caught lightning in a ball. Also, this is like similar to like the golf thing when they had like the match and they've just done way too many iterations of that. I think we're going that direction.
Well, so actually one of the ones that stood out to me as well was Mike Tyson at 25-1. And I could have sworn they already had a Mike Tyson roast, but I think he was part of a roast.
I think he was
part of like Charlie
Central.
Sheen's maybe.
Also, that's if you want to put let's let's circle back with some money here. We'll take the show fund and put that down because if it's going to be on Netflix, they've got the fight coming up as well. There's a time.
That's what I'm saying. You get the Paul brothers, incorporate them. Just the Mike Tyson overall resurgence, or whatever you want to call it. I think that's a value pick at 25 to 1.
I agree.
Like, the name recognition too. Like everybody knows Mike Tyson. I don't think like Travis Kelce would really move the needle for him.
No.
And he's like what 8 to 1 on these hypothetical odds.
Stephen A. Smith 12 to 1 doesn't do it.
I'd like to get a nice head-to-head odds on John Cena versus The Rock because The Rock's sitting at 6 to 1. John Cena's 20 to 1. I think John Cena's more apt for a roast than The Rock.
I think The Rock does it. Kevin Hart. That's going to happen at some point. That's probably a good pick too. We've spent way too much time on odds for something like this. Let's get into actual sports stuff. Interesting time to be from Boston, as typically is with on the sports scene. There's a lot of talk. I don't know if you've heard about the potential for conference finals with Boston and New York in both hockey and basketball. We're kind of in a tough spot here where we're trying to discuss this, knowing that there's going to be a hockey game played in just a few short hours that might render this conversation completely pointless. So I don't know, like. Unquantifiable question. How likely do you think this is to happen?
I would say very likely, or
more likely than not.
Yeah, more probable than not. All right, so we're recording this on Wednesday.
Sure.
If you wanted to go on a DraftKings and parlay all 4 of these teams, the Celtics, the Bruins, the Rangers, and the Knicks to advance to the next round, it's plus 231 as of Wednesday afternoon. So like there's a good chance of this happening. And I think the only way this bet gets ruined is by virtue of one of the hockey teams not making it because it's pretty clear that Celtics and Knicks are probably going to be in there.
Rangers up 2-0 after winning on Tuesday night.
The Celtics right now are minus 115 on FanDuel to win the NBA championship.
So I've actually
with the field being minus 110,
kind of messing around with stuff. Yeah, the field. It's just a coin flip.
Yeah.
The Celtics versus the field. I might actually put a wager down soon. NBA Finals MVP odds is kind of how I'd rather attack it. Not to get way too in the weeds of sports betting stuff, but Jason Tatum plus 145, Jaylen Brown 12 to 1, Derek White 20 to 1 is something I'm kind of looking at. It feels like it's just something more enjoyable to root for than just a joyless slog to the finals. Same thing going to a slight detour, like looking at Conn Smythe odds in the NHL. Igor Shesterkin, pretty much got it.
Not bad. Not bad.
13 to 1. Rangers goalie. The Rangers are plus 410. Jeremy Swayman all the way down to 13 to 1. The Bruins are 8 to 1. So I feel like if one of those teams wins the cup, it's probably going to be because of the goalie. Whereas like if you look at the Western Conference teams, McDavid, there's McKinnon, like the skaters are probably something to keep in mind there. Yeah, I think the Bruins are, just because we don't have as much information at this point, are the most likely team to kind of screw this whole thing up, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But they're coming back from Florida with at least a split. Maybe we could dub ourselves in and say they're up 2-0.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens in game 2.
I mean, it's pretty obvious, even based on the odds, that they would be the
good point. Yeah.
Sort of the fly in the ointment. They're minus 110 to win the series. Everybody else is sort of a heavy favorite at this point. I guess the Rangers would be the obvious second option for me. I think just given the volatility of hockey relative to basketball,
100%. Yep.
Like it's just, and they're playing 2 teams that are at worst they're equals, right? Like the Panthers and Hurricanes are both favorites going into the series.
Yeah, and in that Rangers Hurricane series, that all the Rangers have done so far is hold home court or home ice.
Right.
So. And then the other thing we were kind of looking at, kicking around here, same city parlays. I kind of love these. I have I forgot to look it up. I think I was like a 44 to 1 or something on the Nuggets and the Avs to win their respective championships. Because of the Nuggets struggling, that's now an 85 to 1 parlay for the both of them to win the title. There are 4 cities left for areas, I guess, depending on how you want to characterize Dallas. New York, Boston, Dallas, and Denver. The Celtics Bruins parlay 16 to 1 is by far the shortest, followed by Rangers Knicks at 60 to 1, Mavs Stars and Dallas 160 to 1, and then 85 to 1 the Denver parlay. I might double down on the Denver one.
I honestly, I might join you in that. Like, I love that pick, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you got two teams that have...
All it takes is Jokic to just go nuts all of a sudden, and here we go.
You have two teams that have the championship
They've not looked
pedigree,
good, but...
both of those teams have... I mean, the Nuggets might have the best player in the NBA. The Avalanche might have the best forward and best defenseman in the NHL. Like, there's the star power. The teams that they have in front of them are trying to exercise some playoff demons of their own. Like, I could totally see... It might not even be a case of those teams winning, but it might be a matter of the teams that they're facing just puking all over the place. In which case, that gets you home, too.
That's my thing with Minnesota, especially in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm not sold that series is over.
They've blown doors, and the Nuggets do not look right, or at least so I've been told. I haven't really watched a ton of it. But, I don't know. The Wolves have a young roster. That Minnesota team is...
That's a collapse waiting to happen.
We've seen it with the Celtics, right? Not that they've necessarily collapsed, but you kind of have to go through it a few times.
Buying the dip on the Nuggets.
Hell yeah.
Big time.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's probably smarter to just bet the Nuggets to win the title right now than it is to parlay them both, but sure. I get being greedy. I mean, 80, what is it, 81, 85 to 1? That's hard to pass up.
But so the Nuggets to win the NBA Finals is at 16 to 1, I believe.
Hell yeah.
Which is like, you're never going to get, I mean.
No, give me that, and I'll take the Derek White, and I'm feeling pretty good.
There you go. You are a hoop head.
That's what they always say about me. Nothing else. So there is that.
But I mean, really though, like the Nuggets, they have, like I said, best player. You have a clutch performer in Jamal Murray. Did not get suspended, so that's huge. Well coached. Yeah, I mean, it's for me that the pick is pretty easy there amongst those four cities if you want to do a little championship double dip.
There's also some pretty bad Porter family juju going on right now where. Yeah, every one of Michael Porter's brothers has gotten in trouble for something recently. So, do you really want
to? Somebody's got to turn around.
Somebody's
got to bring fame and fortune to that family.
Is who's brother betting on, and that's one thing to consider. So, yeah, that's that. That's some hockey basketball talk. There's not a whole lot else to get in there. I'm trying to think of there's something that we absolutely need to touch on. It's hard. We're in a weird spot. I think wake me up for the Celtics when the Eastern Conference Finals get here, and even then. I don't know. So, it just feels like a joyless slog, like I said.
The NBA?
Yeah, no, the Celtics specifically.
Oh, yeah. But even the NBA is just kind of whatever. I guess the West is semi-intriguing.
The Celtics don't win it this year. I mean, obviously, I don't know how many years. We'll be doing this for the next 5 years if they don't win. And it's like, complete damnation. Like, this, you look at the rest of the landscape and you're just like, what? Who's going to, there's no Warriors. There's no Durant. There's no LeBron. There's no major challenger in the East. The Bucks are obviously.
They should win it this year, and they should be contending for a title for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and if they win it this year, I'm going to call it borderline fake because they haven't had to beat anybody.
There you go. Yeah, might as well play it in a bubble.
Unless Derek White wins the MVP, in which case it's legit.
I will say NHL playoffs is it's probably the 8 best teams in the NHL that are still in there.
Yeah,
it shook out pretty good.
Did you see Ray Ferraro, what he said about it a couple weeks ago or last week? He's like, a lot of you've really cut the contenders about in half. He said after the first round, it's like, man, you pretty much did. Yep. So
I mean, there are some matchups that like Vegas Dallas. That was like, Mike, this is too good of a matchup for round one. And even now, Carolina Rangers is like.
I have to I had to double check that
good round 2 matchup.
That Vegas Dallas one, where I was like, wait, it's still the first round. I was like, this doesn't.
You're getting a few of those, but by and large, I think it's played out pretty well. It's entertaining.
I agree. All right, let's get into the real main event here. The real entertainment. So yeah, you can bet on a lot of stuff in the world, and you can bet on it. You can bet on the Westminster Dog Show, which goes down this weekend, I guess, May 11th. What is May 11th?
What's your bet? Give me your best dog call. Dog bark. Oh, that's pretty good.
That's all this segment is. So yeah, we've really been kind of just diving into random stuff that you can bet on, and one thing that came up was the Westminster Dog Show. You can bet on that also at BetOnline. I'm trying to pull it up. I've screwed myself up here, but how familiar are you with the dog show circuit? Because I did some research
I would
here.
Say, you probably are more well-versed, you being a dog owner, than I am.
When I picked up my dog, they're like, do you know about the dog show? I was like, yeah, man.
Are you going to enter him?
No. I think I have a mixed breed. I don't know if those are allowed. To be honest with you. So let me get to my research first. I did a lot of research. I watched an 11-year-old Vice segment where a guy tripped acid and went to the Westminster Dog Show. The description was...
Dad?
The description of the YouTube video is the Westminster Dog Show is a hellscape packed to the gills with Midwesterners and dogs who receive more attention and have better lives than at least 40% of the world. The amount of misplaced love and resources funneled into these pooches on a daily basis is enough to make a stone-cold, sober person uneasy. But recently I discovered that being thrust in the middle of the whole ordeal while tripping acid is a great way to kill an afternoon. So I think that's a fairly good...
Yeah.
In that video, this is an interesting to consider as you're handicapping. The gentleman talked to an older fella who was talking about the differences between dog shows and cat shows. And I thought this was a very insightful comment. I'm going to edit this to be a little more politically correct, but he said the difference between a dog show and a cat show is that at a cat show, the people are really heavy because you don't have to run the cats. And at a dog show, people are a lot slimmer. So I've come to the conclusion that dog shows are healthier than cat shows because you have to run them around the ring as part of your showing off. So each breed has a written standard that describes the ideal specimen of the breed. So we're looking for, it's very subjective judging, but we're looking for which dog best represents the breed. That's best in breed. And then we go to best in show. It's kind of like, I think it's kind of like a brackety type thing where it's all of them come together at the end. They dance them around, or not dance, you run them around.
Yeah. Real quick, I also did a little bit of homework here just to get a feel for it, get a feel for the landscape. So I came across a random Reddit user from 8 months ago.
Yeah. I had some Reddit stuff too.
Who actually said, so this is a direct quote. I think it should be the year of the big dogs.
This year.
This year. They were
handicapping this 8 months ago?
Yeah, they were starting to get a feel for it.
The grind starts early.
I am rooting for the Mastiff to take it all.
Of course.
Been there since the beginning in 1877 and never won. That should be remedied. Anyone else have a sentimental favorite? I know it isn't fair to the individual dog, but I always root against the Terriers for best in shows. Since they are the Yankees and the Patriots of the dog world, 47 wins, just not fair, LOL. Also rooting for the Field Spaniel, the English Toy, and the Tibetan Spaniel because if a small dog has to win, I like the Spaniel dogs. But honestly, I just want to see a breed win their group that never has before. So this is a person who loves a good, no pun intended, underdog story.
So you can bet on breed of dog to win best in show. And as such, Terrier, runaway favorite, 3-1.
Big time favorite.
Followed by the Poodle at 6-1. And then the Spaniel, 10-1. So let's not paint the Spaniel as the 2007 New York Giants here going up against the undefeated Patriots. But it's something to consider. Let me see if I have anything else.
I'm leaning Poodle. 6-1. I feel like the Poodle is the last one in 2020. I don't know if you knew that, but a lot happened that year. That's a bubble year for a lot of sports. Got to think they want to show themselves on the big stage, right?
When did they do that?
They get the crowds back. I don't know.
Well, I think they did
a piping crowd noise to the 2020 Westminster Dog Show.
Was it remote?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Dance them around.
Everybody just submit your YouTube videos, upload them to Vimeo.
America's Funniest Home Videos. Dog Show.
There's a blip link.
Well, one of the other ones was I think Time put this video together at the 2021 Westminster Dog Show, which was outside. It was outside in the field, and
you got to think that affects short-haired dogs versus long-haired dogs too.
It's a great point.
Very majestic if you get the long hair outside conditions going.
A little hotter perhaps for the really long-haired dogs. Now they're panting. Maybe you're not getting as much of the form or the height. They're slouching a little bit. They don't look as tall. Something to keep in mind because I think that's just height, form, movement, function, how well they move based on the standard for their breed. Temperament is up there. The former president of the Westminster Kennel Club, this was again from that video I saw from Time, was named Charlton Raidners III, which if I were to...
He's got to have a plaque on a wall somewhere, right?
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't have a monocle, but that does sound like
some sort
the guy
of
who runs
a
kennel club. Yeah. So this is a very insightful comment. He said, their first instinct is to compete. They know what they're doing. They feel these rings are their rings. They really are competing. They do it on all sorts of ground. So they can go, I don't know if that's kind of similar to the horses last week. You can do it on,
hey, take them to
dirt,
the beach.
mud, grass, the hardwood, the ice.
Wood chips like those ones at the playgrounds.
Yes, exactly. No, some dogs don't like those, yeah. And also he said there's a star power to every winning dog, and it's different.
An aura.
it's kind of, I guess it's like porn. You see it when you see it. Like, you know when you see it. I don't know. That's something to keep in mind. Also, you can bet on the first letter of the winner's name. And for whatever reason, A to H is a prohibitive favorite here, -120. I to P, +220. And Q to Z, +200. So, well, I don't know. That's something to keep in mind. That bodes well for Hector, the dog, our dog. That's, just something to keep in mind as you're handicapping this weekend.
Yeah, and another thing. So earlier this afternoon, so maybe next year we get somebody on to really break it down, go a little bit beyond the nuts and bolts of the dog show. Maybe somebody from the Westminster Kennel Club, maybe. So maybe that's something we look into next year. Didn't quite have the time this year. Kind of snuck up on us.
There's a Petco down the road we could have gone to.
So we didn't really have time for that. So I was sitting at my desk earlier, I reached out to a live support agent from Petco via the chat portal just to try to get their 2 cents on the matter. No one was willing to go on record. They gave me an email address.
Background?
I was jumping through a lot of hoops. I was like one of the dogs being run around in the midst of this chat. I was trying to coax the guy into a coat-colored futures bet.
You got paid to do this.
But yeah, he just told me unless I had Petco-related questions, I would have to direct my inquiries elsewhere. But
son of a bitch.
I just wanted to let you know that I put in the work, Mike. I tried to get us a little something to snack into. That was in between, scheduling and writing a story and planning for a meeting and reach out to Petco.
One other thing, this was from Redditor Gooberfaced on Reddit. Just something, more words of wisdom. In all show breeds like this one, flash helps. Terriers are very flashy. Flash is that undefinable quality that keeps bringing your eye back to that one dog. A dog can have better conformation, not confirmation, yet still not be as flashy. I remember a quote about a top-winning dog decades ago that his flash caused one to forgive his faults.
Yeah, where are we going with that?
Yeah, I know. So
better him than the trainer, I guess.
I'm loading up on the Greyhounds. I've had Greyhound. I love Greyhounds. I think they're like 22-1 for the Italian Greyhound. That feels like a lot of value there. So I'm going to kind of dig into that.
The German Shepherd guy, so 20-1.
Sure.
I kind of got eyes for as my long shot.
The other thing is, somebody said, one of the other guys, I think he's like a commentator or something, so there's no such thing as a perfect dog. And that guy, quite frankly, is a real dick because I think every dog is perfect, especially my dog. Sure. I would like to see a dog show that's a little less stoofy, a little less formal.
I'm with you.
That's, I think, we need to really reward the good boys and good girls. Not that these dogs aren't. I'm just saying maybe that can be our legacy as a dog show for the people.
Yeah, maybe like
as opposed to the dog show for the dogs.
Maybe like a competition where they chase down a mailman.
100%.
Or like we time their reaction time to a car alarm going off.
Sure.
How do they interact with kids?
Yeah. How quickly can you get it to stop barking? Like, that's been a problem I've had every day I get home. The dog's yapping away.
That could be your fatal flaw.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. So,
I'm with you though. I think that there's something there.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, I'll
also be interested in like some side wagers.
I'm probably gonna bet on some of this. So like, I'll keep you posted.
What are the odds of a dog taking a dump?
So there's more. There's a lot there to get to.
What do they call it? The run, like a heat?
Oh, I don't know.
Like
I don't think heat is necessarily a word you want to use with dogs. If we're being honest, no, yeah. I don't think dogs and heats are a little different.
Yeah.
Mother's Day is this weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Yeah, definitely.
We have one last thing we want to get to. I actually did some research on this one too. It feels like we need to talk a little bit about moms. So we defaulted to TV as we typically do.
I don't really know why
this is one thing we were kind of like wrapping up our conversation
How do we
yesterday.
talk about moms?
I was talking about which TV mom do you want coaching your team to a championship? I have 2 options. I want to hear yours before we get out. We got like 2 minutes.
So my first one, and I'm biased, Harriet Winslow from Family Matters.
That was on my list. Short list.
I met her at a 90s convention one time.
She's still kicking?
Took a picture of her. Oh, yeah. She looked great, too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Took a picture with a wrestling belt. We had a great time. She asked if she could put our photo up on her Facebook page. I don't know if she ever did that, but regardless, absolute sweetheart. Then met her real-life daughter later on that night at a bar, who was also just awesome. So I have the utmost respect for the Winslow family. My other one was Mrs. Cunningham from Happy Days. She gets away with calling Fonzie by his real name. That shows me that she can handle a star player. I don't know anybody else that could get away with that. So Mrs. C, throw it up for her as well as my 2.
I'm a 90s kid, so I got 2 90s options. First one, Deborah Barone from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Of course.
She does not take any guff from anyone, her husband included. She's able to, her ability to handle her in-laws, they are always coming over. That's got to be the worst thing in the world. Every time I watch the show, I get anxiety thinking about it. That's kind of like dealing with like prime Manny Ramirez, right?
Yeah.
But there's 2 of them. They're from the tri-state area. I think they're from Long Island. So she knows what it takes to win in a big market. Already close to the sports world. Ray is a sports writer for Newsday, I believe, and even her brother-in-law is in law enforcement, and so he can make a problem go away if the star player gets arrested in some sort of issue. And obviously, I had to go with Jill Taylor from Home Improvement, just dealing with the tool man, a star in his own right, who's a little quirky, eccentric. That's huge for me. Similarly, she did a wonderful job with 3 sons at various points in their lives. You had one moving off to friggin' Africa. You got one who's a goth. You got one who suffered a knee injury playing soccer, so she can deal with that. And also, she went back to school to get her master's in psychology. Sports psychology is bigger than ever.
Perfect.
I love going to war with Jill Taylor as well. So
don't sleep on Sophia from the Golden Girls either. A little bit on the older side.
I never
think
have.
Teams might be going younger. Sharp as a tack. She holds people accountable.
Fair enough. That's all you're asking for. All right, let's get out of here. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. Hopefully, everybody out there can spend some time with their mom this weekend. Watch the Dog Show. Make a buttload of money and really enjoy themselves. And we'll be back again next week to talk about some other random stuff. So thanks for joining us. Go make sure you check out everything on the Nested Vodcast Network, and we'll catch you again next week.
Love you, Mom.